Hey y'all, it's your girl Lauren Nicole, and I am here with a book review. And yes, there will be spoilers. Today, we're talking about a book called The Gift. And honey, I got stuff to tell y'all. So The Gift was written by Freida McFadden. And as I mentioned in the Hoopla episode of Researching Rabbit Holes, I do enjoy a good Freida McFadden novel. Now, one thing that Freida does well is that in her universe, she ties everything together in the end. Every character has some relation or some sort of connection to the plot of the story, but you're not going to see it coming necessarily. Okay, so I do like that she knows how to end a good story. So let's get into it. So I listened to this book as an audiobook, and it was a very quick read. It was available on my Hoopla. It was only about an hour and 5 minutes. In, out, a little mystery, a little plot, a little conclusion, wrap it up with a bow. Perfect. Pun intended. So this story features a character named Stella. Stella is a newlywed who is scratching and surviving in New York City. She is poor and trying to make it, okay? Stella is working a double shift at a diner in the Bronx, and it's not the greatest place. It's a rinky-dink place that doesn't have the best tippers. It doesn't have a steady flow of traffic, and so she's not even really making the kind of money she needs to make for her needs, right? They're missing bills. The heat's been turned off in the dead of winter. It's snowing. It's a bad situation. So it's getting late. She's working with her coworker, Bessie. She is head over heels about her husband, Justin. They've been together for 2 years. They've recently got married. This is their first Christmas together. And she is enamored with this idea of having her first Christmas with her husband. Meanwhile, Bessie has been married 3 times. And she's like, girl, it's not that deep. Stella is stressing because money is so tight that she has not had a chance or the funds to buy a gift for Justin. Her and Justin agreed that they were going to keep it really simple and low pressure that year anyway, just because they didn't have the funds for anything grand. So okay, but she felt the pressure to get him something. She had absolutely nothing. The diner was going to close at 11 p.m. All the shops, everything was going to be closed very soon. So she didn't know what she was going to do. She just knew that she didn't want to go home empty-handed. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Justin is in law school. He is a second-year law student. And this is part of the reason why Stella is working so hard. She is working to support them while he is in school, albeit she's kind of hustling on her own. Now, as the diner begins to thin out, she notices that there's an older woman sitting in a back booth who never ordered anything, who never looked up. She was just kind of sitting very still and was there all the way to close. She kind of gave her the nod to say, hey, we're closing in a few minutes, whatever. This woman has essentially come for Stella, but Stella doesn't know this yet. So she presents herself as, I heard you have this dilemma about Christmas. Oh, let's take a step back. Stella describes herself as relatively plain. There's not really anything spectacular about her, but she has beautiful hair. She has long, beautiful hair. She does not have nice clothes. She does not have nice shoes. She's wearing hand-me-downs and all the things, but that is the one thing that she takes care of. That is the one thing that she does not slack on, and she takes care of her hair. She even says that when the other waitresses are working, they typically pull their hair up, but she notices that when her hair is down, she gets better tips. So she's playing to her strengths. I get it. So this lady, who we come to find out, her name is Helga. And she has like this thick, probably Russian accent. She's presenting herself to Stella as though she has the solution. She is the owner of an antique shop, and so she tells Stella, come with me to my shop and we can find you something for your husband. So Stella, being desperate and young and in love, goes to Helga's antique shop. And in the shop, she finds a lot of whatnots and whatsits all around, and she just needs something simple for Justin. I will say that for those of you who understand how foreshadowing works, there's a lot of foreshadowing throughout the book. Even in the very beginning, there is just references to certain things that make you go, okay, something ominous is afoot, right? So Stella notices that there's a skull at the front counter, and she's just kind of like taken aback. She's like, it looks a little more realistic than it looks a little realistic, like it looks a little human. But okay, so Helga presents a watch chain, like the chain that you would attach to a pocket watch. It's just the chain to Stella, and Stella is thrilled because Justin has a pocket watch. Same color, silver, perfect. This would fit perfect. She wants it so bad. She asks, how much is this? She can't afford the chain. She has a necklace that she received as a graduation gift that she tries to make a trade. Helga tells her that the necklace is worthless. So here is Stella thinking that her jewelry is worthless. It wasn't, okay? Helga was on a mission. Helga says, if you trade your hair, then you can have the chain. So after much back and forth and deliberation, and Stella's intuition spoke to her and said, girl, this is not a great idea. What did she do? She did it for love. She went ahead and let this woman cut her hair. In the back room of this antique shop is this setup with all of these wigs, these human hair wigs that this woman makes. And so in exchange for this chain that Stella cannot afford, she has agreed to let Helga cut her hair. Helga braids her hair and cuts it all the way down to the roots and gives Stella a buzz cut. Stella's like, oh my goodness, what have I done? What have I done? But I did it for love. I did it for my man. She's excited that she's not going home empty-handed. She gets home to find that Justin has his feet kicked up on the couch watching Netflix, and the apartment smells funny. The kitchen is a mess. She's really annoyed that she has worked a double shift while he has been home, Netflix and chilling. Not only that, the kitchen is dirty. The house isn't clean. It's Christmas Eve. She notices that their suitcase is in the hall closet. She's thinking, oh, he has a gift for me, because earlier in her shift at work, she texted him to let him know that she would be working late. He said that he was looking forward to seeing her and that he wanted to exchange gifts at midnight. So she thought, oh, let me make sure I have a gift for him because he has something for me. So Stella presents the watch chain to him. His reaction is underwhelming. Might I say disappointing. So she feels taken aback because she has made this sacrifice. She takes her hat off and basically says, I did this for you. And he goes into the kitchen and presents her with a pan of burnt brownies. She's looking around like, surely there's something else. No, right? And he's like, well, we said we weren't doing anything. She's like, but I wanted to get you something. It's our first Christmas. And so their first big marital spat ensues. Words are exchanged. She throws the brownies. He tells her, I can't deal with this craziness anymore. We need to take a break. And then she says that he proceeds to run down a list of her flaws. And as he is talking, she dissociates and her eyes land on the kitchen knife that he used to try to saw one of the dried, burnt, crispy brownies. The scene changes and Stella returns back to Helga's shop the very next day on Christmas Day. Helga's open on Christmas Day. She comes in, she tells Helga, I'm interested in one of your wigs and I would like to make a trade. So Helga's a little shocked. She's a little concerned. She didn't think Stella would be back so soon. And so Helga says, well, what do you have to trade? Stella presents her with a pocket watch with a chain. But the pocket watch has a little stain on it. Helga knows what has occurred. Stella gets her a nice new wig, a new hair color, and everything, and goes about her day. Now, once Stella leaves, Helga is shook, if you will, because things did not go the way that she thought that they would go. Come to find out that Helga has a daughter named Angela, who is also in law school. And in the previous year, Angela met Justin and fell in love. But Justin was married. Helga tried to tell Angela, leave that married man alone. But somehow, some way, Angela comes back to Helga to tell her that she's pregnant with Justin's child. Angela tells Helga that Justin's wife, Stella, was a beautiful woman. So Helga went to investigate on her own by sitting in the diner where Stella worked. And she noticed that Stella wasn't all that beautiful, that it was her hair that was her power. So she came up with the plan to take Stella's power by taking her hair. Angela knew about Justin's prized pocket watch, and so she presented the chain to Stella as the trading point in order to get Stella's hair. In the mind of Helga, she was going to make a wig out of Stella's hair and gift it to Angela so that Angela would have Justin and her unborn child would have their father. Helga states that I took her power and she took it back, and I wasn't expecting that. And she even referenced Samson in the Bible about how hair is power. Now, I thought that was something interesting. So, Helga calls Angela, and she does not have the heart to tell her that Justin isn't coming. Angela is thrilled. She's like, Mom, Justin told me that he was excited about the baby. He was going to help me raise the child and that he was going to break things off with his wife. He just didn't want to ruin Christmas, but he was going to tell her after Christmas and that we would be together. And now Helga knows that Justin is not coming. And she felt really bad because Helga's husband, Sven, had died from a heart attack, and all she had left was Angela, and she didn't have the heart to break her heart. She hangs up the phone with Angela to allow her to live in the fantasy and the delusion of Justin coming, and to prepare for the coming of her unborn child for another day. And as she's standing in her shop, she rubs the skull and tells Sven, what are we going to do? So now we find that the skull that was super realistic that Stella saw was actually a human skull, and it belonged to the dead husband of Helga. Crazy. And so the story ends. So as I said, there were several moments of foreshadowing throughout the book. In the very beginning, when Stella was describing the diner, it's kind of dank, it's poorly lit. She described it as being like a morgue. Stella's co-worker, Bessie, had a less than enthusiastic attitude about Stella's excitement towards Justin, and she felt like, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Stella, in her young naivete, was like, she's had 3 husbands. She just doesn't understand. So we're being shown something is about to happen. And Stella is a little delusional. But we're following. She's happy. She's she's a little down and out financially, but we don't quite know how it's gonna go. It's snowing, it's cold. We don't know how it's gonna go. When they finally actually pay attention to Helga, who has been sitting in the diner this whole time, the lady is sitting so still and had not moved that they actually thought that she was dead. So she was actually kind of symbolizing the shadow of death, if you will. When she enters this antique shop and she sees the skull, this is another kind of omen that death is coming. Some sort of death is coming. And even when she described Helga's wigs, she described them as like not having a body, as bodiless, as though there was some separation between the head and the body. So we don't quite know what she did to Justin. But we know that Justin is no longer with us. And this has been foreshadowed. As soon as she gets home and the suitcase is in the closet and the house is dirty and his feet are kicked up after she was working a double shift, and she was like, he could have taken a job, on school break. Even the malls hire part-time Santa Claus. Like that there was no effort towards Stella at all. The only thing we didn't see coming is that Stella is a little bit unhinged. And maybe we could have seen that in her decision to allow Helga to cut her hair. But the framing of her until that point was just that she was a loving, excited, hopeful new wife trying to make her way in the world in the cold winter of the Bronx. But then we find that Stella, those hard brownies, they were burnt. That's the thing. Those hard brownies were the last straw. It was the final straw. She was overlooking many things. The red flags had been flying at full staff for some time. And the irony cannot be lost that Angela was just as delusional as Stella was in the end. In the beginning, Stella is on cloud 9 about this man and the future that she's trying to make sure she does her part to build. And Angela is here in the background, also just as hopeful about this future that she's looking to build with this man. And I just find it very funny that these two characters are actually not that different, and they're centered around a person that we get very little information on, but we see just enough to know that they might have been a little hoodwinked and bamboozled. It was a little all that glitters is not gold. And that sometimes the problem is you just don't have all the information. And, there's a lesson in there somewhere. I'm not going to be the one to tell it, though. I won't be the one to tell it. But if you found this interesting, I do recommend that you go and give this book a listen and or a read. And give me any book recommendations that you would like for me to review in the future. And we'll give it a whirl. Until next time.